let's get this conversation started. Today I'm going to be telling you guys why we decided not to purchase a home. To begin the discussion, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. About 2.5 years ago, me and my wife made the decision that we're going to be steadfast in getting our credit right and our work history there so we can qualify for an FHA loan. So 2.5 years ago, I started working a steady job, one job that I could be consistent with in the same field for 2 years, which was security, because I knew I could do a lot of overtime. I know it wouldn't be too stressful on my body, and I knew I could maintain that position and grow in it. And then also, my credit was about 530, and we got it up to about 590 by the time we wanted to pre-qualify. So about 6 months ago, we got pre-qualified, and that was back in August. It was awesome. You know, first time I was ever able to qualify for a home, and we got qualified for $400,000 for a single family or $500,000 for a duplex, which means 2 units. FHA, which means my credit score needed to be a minimum of 580. It was 590, and then the required down payment was 3.5%. So years ago, you know, when we first started this journey, me and my wife, we said this, and I was kind of like the influence. I said, babe, we're going to get a 4-unit first. We're going to live in 1 unit, rent the other 3 out, so we don't have to pay a rent or a mortgage, and then we'll have more time to work on a business, and then we'll be financially free. All right. As you guys know, life doesn't always pan out the way you plan it. Okay? Every time you scramble your eggs, they don't come out the way you like it. I mean, sometimes when you flip the pancake, it just doesn't land right. I'll say it like that. Alright, anyways, move fast forward, we get pre-qualified. Cool. So I go into looking for a 4-unit. My lender's like, good luck trying to find a 4-unit that's going to pass what's called the self-sufficiency test. If you're looking to get an FHA loan at 580 and get a 4-unit, you need to know this. The self-sufficiency test is a requirement that states if you buy anything that is 2 or 3 units, because you can buy up to 4 units all under a residential loan and qualify for all first-time home buyers perks, low down payment options. But if you're going through an FHA, those 4 units or 3 units, they have to pass what's called the self-sufficiency test. Meaning that if you buy a 3-unit property for your primary residence that you have to live in, you live in 1, but the other 2 have to completely cover your mortgage. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That is what makes up your mortgage. So those 2 units have to cover the full mortgage for that 3rd unit. Alright? It can't be like your mortgage is $4,000 and the 2 units cover $3,999. No, the 2 units have to cover the full $4,000. And if it's 4 units, then those 3 out of 4 of the units have to cover the full mortgage payment. Alright? Now, that's what I kind of knew, but going in and getting pre-qualified at a 7.5% interest rate, it was not happening. I was being optimistic, like, no, I can find one. Not happening. No 4 units. All the 4 units where we were looking at high desert, in the desert area, they're at least $800,000, 8.5, $900,000. Okay, and the mortgage on that one is 7.5% interest rate, and you have to pay insurance because it's an FHA loan. It would have been like $6-7 grand. And with that type of mortgage, 3 units aren't paying that with the location that we're looking at. So that was out the picture. But okay, maybe the 4 unit won't work. Let's look at duplexes. A duplex is a residential family that has 2 units on it. The duplexes in the FHA loan do not require self-sufficiency test. Remember, a self-sufficiency test states that if you're in a 3 unit, 2 out of 3 of those units, the rent for those, they'll do a rental analysis, has to cover the full mortgage payment. And for 4 units, 3 out of 4 of those units, based off the rental analysis of the average rent in the area, has to cover the full mortgage payment. Okay? And remember that mortgage payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That makes up your mortgage. Those units have to cover your full mortgage payment. Duplexes are fine though. So we start looking for a duplex. Alright, boom. This is about 2 weeks in. Okay, we're 2 weeks in, and nada, nothing. We look at one spot, we're not living there. Another spot, for sure ain't living there. Um, and we're looking all around, guys. So that's like week 2, or that's like into week 3, because the places are just not ideal for me to raise my family. I'm not saying it's horrible, but I take in consideration my wife, and and her being home a lot, and my wife. Keep in mind, at this point, she's 4 months pregnant. In my head, I'm thinking I gotta buy this property or get this property before my wife has her baby, because I'm gonna be on maternity leave, or yep, paternity leave, and then my income's gonna drop. I'm thinking all these different things, when in reality, I should have just been thanking the Lord that I was pre-qualified and I had the opportunity to look around. All right, so I'm trying to get a home before February because our baby's due next month. This is last year, August, moving into September. And then after we do that, we move into the single family realm. It's cool. Single family is a lot easier. You have a lot more houses to look at. We see some beautiful houses that we like, but there's some things to consider. We live in an area where the median house income, sorry, median house price is about $500,000, 550. That's where we are. I only got qualified for 400 grand. So we're looking about an hour and a half away, an hour away. And I'm so hyped up on the idea of purchasing a home, I wasn't considering all the nuances of moving and having to make an extra commute to pretty much everywhere me and my wife went. We're moving farther from our church, which we need. We need our assembly. You need an assembly if you're a Christian. I'm gonna say it like that. You need people. You need people of God. You need leaders, and you need to be discipled. Okay, that's what we need in our household. And it was gonna be about another 30-minute added to my drive to work every day. I was already driving about an hour and 10 minutes. So it would have been about an hour and 40 minutes every single day to get to work. And we would have been about an hour away from our church. And at the moment, we were about 15 minutes. I'm not really considering those factors when I'm looking all the way over here. All the way over here, I'm just looking at, okay, get a home, build equity, sacrifice for a little bit, pull the equity out, then buy another rental, and then we'll work our way up to get where we want to be. All right, because that is a mindset that I feel like I had, and a lot of people do have. So you have to really count the cost when you're thinking like that. I had to. I sought counsel. I sought leaders in my church, to help me understand, is this a good decision? And I got great advice, considering that I was trying to move so far away. And but that's after my next step. We couldn't find a duplex. All right. I didn't seek leadership then. I then said, wow, we can actually build an ADU in California. If the garage in California, if the garage is attached to the house, then it's automatically qualified to build an ADU. That is a California law until 2025. You can go look it up. Doesn't matter gated community, doesn't matter any community. You can actually turn the garage, unless it's like a historical house or something like that, into an accessory dwelling unit. This was a great option for me because you could cash flow like that. In California, it's hard. But if you bought a single family home, turned the garage into an accessory dwelling unit, then you can rent out the unit and rent out the house without having to buy basically the purchase price of a duplex. How this works is this. You get the house you're looking at. Me and my wife, I said, let's look for 3-car garages so we can make our accessory dwelling unit a 2-unit apartment. A 2-bedroom apartment. Because if you have an 800 square foot garage or 700 square foot garage, you can convert that into a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. And then you can also have your house, which is a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom. You can rent them both out almost the same, maybe about $300 less for the garage unit, but it'll be all brand new. Get this. The best part about that is that the unit, the construction of the unit, could be fully financed and wrapped into your home loan. So you don't have to spend $100,000 to $125,000 converting your garage into a unit. You can actually put that inside your FHA loan. It's called a FHA 203K loan, which allows you to do construction and wrap it inside your loan. There's a few nicks and crannies to that, and we're going to go over that right now. So for the FHA 203K loan, it allows you to purchase a property that needs renovation, or you can use funds to renovate your property as long as they deem it functional and it's not an accessory. You can't use it to put a pool in your house, but you can use it to upgrade the bathroom if within reasonable means. All right. Now here's the catches to that. One, if you are only qualified for $400,000 like I was, you can't go buy a home for 400 grand and then say I want to make the garage or I want to convert the garage into an accessory dwelling unit. You can't do that. Okay? You have to actually budget for that in your purchase. So you have to go find a home that's actually probably for me, I was looking for $275 to $250, and then I can invest $125 to $150 into building that accessory dwelling unit, and then that would have totaled about $400,000, which I was qualified for, thus would have been approved. Second, the work being done to the house can't exceed, the work being done to the house has to be appraisable. So if you want to get the ADU, you get a home for $275, you spend $125 building the ADU, you're at $400,000. That home has to appraise, which means it has to be valued at $400,000 or more according to the bank. Because the bank's not going to finance that job or finance that property if that property is not worth what it perceives it be. They don't want to be negative. You don't want to be negative equity. They call that underwater. So the home actually has to appraise for the value that your total investment is. So you say you put that $125 into it, you get it for $275, and it appraises at $350. It's not going to cut it. It has to appraise at $400 grand or more. Okay? Those are your two main factors when looking at ADU. Now, there's other factors like detached garage or attached garage. And for the ADU, it's always going to be easier, especially in California. It's a big deal right now. A lot of people are building ADUs. If you're in California, you've seen them, that if you have an attached garage, you can convert that. It's already pre-qualified where it stands. If you have a detached garage, there are certain laws and regulations, like you have to be a certain amount of feet from the neighbor's house and, things like that. But if you find a 3-car garage attached to a house and you can fit that all within your budget, you're on fire. You're going to cash flow. And the property, you're going to have a whole new unit in the garage. You can put a garage or single carport in the yard for their car. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. I'm still interested in doing that. But anyways, that was a no-go because it was just hard finding a property that would fit those numbers. $275 built the ADU that my wife would want to live in. $275 in California, you're not going to get anywhere that you know what I mean? It just wasn't happening. Just because the houses in that buy box weren't looking right. Then we ended up looking at a house that was well below our purchase budget. It was $330,000, and we actually got an offer for $20,000 in seller credits, and that 20 grand was going to go to home renovation. It was pretty cool. Almost took it, but we didn't. We didn't feel right about it. It was too far. So we're like, you know what? We're not going to look in that area anymore because it was too far. We received $20,000 in seller credits, though. That's phenomenal. Seller credits are amazing because we stopped looking in the area initially where it was far from everything, and then which is Apple Valley Hesperia for us. Look it up; it's pretty high up there. We started coming down a little bit more inland, and we found another property that we really liked. Didn't love it. We negotiated again, and we actually negotiated with the seller and his agent to give us a $20,000 seller credit to buy down our interest rate. It's called a 2-1 buy down. And no, it is not a adjustable mortgage. A 2-1 buy down is this. Let's say your interest rate is 7.5%. It's called a 2-1 buy down because the seller is going to buy your interest down with their seller credits. They're going to pay the first year, the 2 years. It's a 2-1. It's a 2-1 buy down. That's a 2-year process. They're going to pay for your interest rate to go down from 7.5 to 6.5 to 5.5. 2% down. They're going to pay the difference in the interest from 7.5 and 5.5, which is about $600 for that whole year. And then for the second year, instead of being 2% down, it's going to be 1% down, and that's going to be about $400. Or sorry, $300 for that second year, and then it goes back to the normal rate. So the 2-1 stands for they're buying it down for 2% the first year. They're then paying for 1% the second year, and then the third year, that interest rate is what you actually have it as. So for us, it was a 7.5% interest rate. He was going to buy it down to a 5.5 interest rate, and then our second year of ownership, it would go to a 6.5% interest rate. In our third year ownership, it would go back to that 7.5% interest rate. This is a phenomenal tactic. It is not an adjustable rate mortgage. This is a 2-1 buy down. All right, where the seller helps you out by paying those things. Okay. Now, this was tempting. So the home was $290, and we negotiated $20,000 seller credits. And but get this, the home payment on a home that was $290,000 was going to be $3,350 with a 7.5% interest rate. And then what we're currently paying at that moment for rent, we were paying $2,400. We were paying $2,400. For me to jump from $2,400 to almost $3,400, $1,000 when I have a baby on the way and my driver's gonna be longer, it was tough. It was tough. It was I was actually, my eyes were googling over it. I was like, equity, equity, equity. Wrong idea. I didn't look at the lifestyle. I didn't look at everybody else around me. I wasn't considering other people, which was my mistake. But I learned. The seller actually offered, or we presented, a 2-1 buy down, which means he was going to give us a 2-1 buy down. So our payment for the first year would have been $2,700. That's a big difference. Still wasn't big enough. I couldn't see myself increasing my payment, and then also being responsible for all the utilities in the house. All right, so $2,700 for the first year of ownership, and then I think it was $3,000 for the second year of ownership, and then it was $3,350 for the third year, and therefore more. Ideally, I would have thought about doing a streamlined refinance, which basically you don't pull credit and don't do anything. If the rates drop, you can just streamline and refinance your property into that lower rate. That's a whole nother topic. But it was just a lot going on. So the reason we didn't get that one as well was it was just too much going on. My wife was about to have a baby. I felt like I was pressuring and rushed trying to get it before I stopped working for my paternity leave. And I was going to stop working for about 4 weeks, get 60% of my pay, and some other things. But we didn't buy. And I'm so glad that I sought counsel in my church. And I listened. Because the body of Christ, especially your leaders, they're going to give you the best sound advice when they're really in the spirit. All right. And so thank God for them. Thank God I didn't make that decision, because we'd be stressing and struggling right now. I don't know. But it would not have been wise. Because Since then, I've set my eyes on another goal. Alright? The other goal is this. Remember in the beginning of the video, I said that FHA requires 3 or 4 units to pass the self-sufficiency test? Tell me why, about a month after we stopped looking, conventional guidelines changed for multifamily. So, you always heard about FHA being the people that give you 3.5% on a multifamily. But now, as of December 2023, about a month and a half after we stopped looking, conventional loans now allow you to buy a 3 or 4 units with only 5% down. Guess what? The conventional loan for a 3 or 4 unit does not have to pass a self-sufficiency test. That means what was once almost impossible, seemingly, is now possible. Because no matter the interest, you can go and buy your 4 unit. I wouldn't say you cash flow a crazy amount, but you probably break even, and you don't have to worry about the self-sufficiency test for 5% down. Wow. And then you don't have an insurance that comes along with the FHA loan. So that's phenomenal. 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 And it doesn't have to be your first property. You can get up to 10 conventional loans, but you can only have one FHA loan at a time. So think about that. If you did that 10 times, that's 40 properties. Not saying I'm going to do it 10 times, but phenomenal. So now you can get a conventional loan, which requires a higher credit score, which is where I am now. I'm working on my credit. I'm trying to get it up to about 620 or 640 and then get pre-qualified again. Like I said, I was at 590, so things should be more in my favor by the time I get to that 620 or 640. So glad I slowed down, because I would have never had the opportunity to even pursue the 4 unit properties. Yeah, so it's just a phenomenal overall thing. I'm so glad, because now the opportunity is so much greater. Because before, with the FHA self-sufficiency test, you weren't getting close to having those tests pass. Alright, it was almost impossible. Somebody had to give you their property, give it away. Alright, now a major key I want to recommend to you guys. The reason I was so lucky, the reason I was able to negotiate with real estate agents is because I did not sign an agreement with one. I don't recommend that for everybody. If you don't know anything about real estate, I definitely don't recommend it for you. Real estate agents work like this. There's 2 agents. There's a buyer's agent and there's a seller agent. One represents the buyer, which in my case would have been me. One represents the seller, which in my case as well would have been everybody else. The reason I didn't get that agent is because I know that a buyer's agent, they get paid from the seller's agent. Or sorry, they get paid from the seller. The seller pays everybody out. The seller agent gets 3%. The buyer's agent gets 3%. The seller agent gets 2%. The other buyer's agent gets 2%. Usually that's how it works. It could change up a little bit. But if I took the buyer agent out the picture, now that seller agent has the opportunity to actually represent both me and the seller. That seller agent can now be 2 people representation, which means they can make more commission if they represent 2 people, which means likely they like to favor your offer, or they'll work with you a little bit more because they're enticed to collect a little bit of extra profit per sale, which is fine. Some agents don't like to do that because they feel like you can't properly represent a buyer and a seller. That's not for me to decide. My decision is to make the best deal happen for me and my family. And the reason I was it was easy for me to get the reason it was easy for me to get agents to favor me in these types of things is because I offered them more pay. I said, hey, why don't you just represent me and the seller? You get more money, even if it's just 1%. That was huge. That's huge. I don't recommend you do that if you don't know what you're doing. I definitely recommend you talk to an agent, because when you call a seller's agent, they're always going to ask, why don't you have a real estate agent? And once you sign with one, you're stuck with them. You know, you have to break an agreement. It's a long process. The reason I gave them was this, and it's the truth. I don't want to waste any agent's time. I don't really know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something to invest in, and I don't want to have to work off of an agent schedule to go look at properties, because when you're with an agent, you need your agent to go look at properties with you. You can't go by yourself. But with a seller's agent, you can go whenever they're there. And I said, I might not even buy right now. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I mean, the double side to that was, and also, I want to be able to win you up with some extra profit in your pockets. That was the back end of it. But hey, I didn't want to waste anybody's time as well. All right. So that's the full process. Now where I'm at in this state, building my credit, trying to get that 620, hopefully a 640, because there's a great program if you have a 640 credit score. You can get down payment assistance for a 4 unit. But building my credit. Once I build my credit, I'm then going to start putting offers in on 4 units. And the cool thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to use seller credits to hopefully pay for the down payment of that 4 unit. Because a seller can use seller credits up to 6%. So if I can get the seller to credit me 6% on the sale of their 4 unit, that means they'll cover all my down payment and part of my closing costs, which means I'd be in the property for dang near $0. And if I get a 640 or higher soon, I basically would be in the property for nothing. So I can save my 30 or 40 or 50 or 20 or 10, whatever I have in the bank for a rainy day, instead of having used it for a down payment. Alright guys, that's the video. Long story short, I'm so glad God had me wait, because the opportunity is way better, way bigger than what was available to me at the moment. If you like that, go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.